Good morning, 7th grade, and welcome to your second Science I&M video. Today, we are going to explain the function of important cell organelles, and I'm going to tell you what that word organelle means in just a second. A few housekeeping notes for today. We're taking notes on the chart that you have in front of you. The red terms, what would normally go on the left side of your science notebooks, are already written for you in the first column of the chart. So, you need to be writing what's in green. You are only writing in the definition column, the second column during this video. The other two columns, the picture and the connection at SciTech, are going to be for a later part of class. So, you're only writing what's in green. You're only writing in the second column of the chart you have in front of you. Making some connections from yesterday. Remember that we said all cells are alive. They have all of the characteristics of life. They grow, they reproduce, they respond to their environment, they maintain a stable internal environment. Eukaryotic cells, those are the ones with the nucleus, make up the smallest living parts of complex organisms like humans. We're chock full of a bunch of eukaryotic cells. One thing that makes eukaryotic cells so special is that they have organelles. That's that word we read in our objective. Organelles are tiny structures that carry out a specific job within a cell. So each organelle has its own job. The first organelle we're going to talk about today is the cell membrane. A cell membrane is this outermost covering of the cell, and it is a pretty flexible fluid membrane that allows things to enter or exit the cell. It's like a boundary, kind of like the guard of the cell. The second part of the cell we are going to talk about is the cytoplasm. Now, cytoplasm isn't exactly an organelle because it's not a structure. Cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance that fills up an entire cell. The organelles sit inside the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm kind of holds them in place. Also, a lot of reactions take place in the cytoplasm, so it's a really important part of the cell. The third organelle we're going to talk about today is extremely important, and it's going to keep coming up for the rest of this unit. The mitochondria, that's this red bean looking thing right here with all the folds in the middle. This is the mitochondria, and it is so important for cells to have mitochondria because it turns sugar into energy. Now, I don't just mean the sugar you get from eating Starburst or hot Cheetos. I mean sugar, glucose that's in all of the food that we eat. So mitochondria is what turns our food into energy for our cells and our bodies. This little picture over here is ATP. We're going to talk about that more next week, but that is an energy molecule. More on that later. The next organelle is the nucleus. You guys heard about this yesterday when we were talking about the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The nucleus is right here, smack dab in the center of the cell, this big round thing. It is the brain of the cell. We say it's the brain of the cell because it controls everything that goes on in the cell. It also stores the genetic material, or the DNA. So the nucleus is extremely important for eukaryotic cells, and it's what separates them from prokaryotic cells. The next organelle is a ribosome. Now, sometimes ribosomes can be hard to see on cell diagrams. They're right here, these little round blue dots, and there's often a lot of them in cell diagrams all throughout the cell. Ribosomes make protein. The fancy science word for make is synthesize, and I need you guys to write down synthesize because you're going to see it a lot, especially in high school. That's the word high school scientists use. Ribosomes synthesize proteins. What's a protein, you ask? You've never heard about a protein? That's okay. Proteins are large molecules right here. This is actually a molecule, that's a diagram of a protein, that helps organisms grow, make more DNA, respond to their environment. All the things that make a cell alive, proteins facilitate. Our hair and our nails are all made of proteins, so they're really important. And they are made by ribosomes. The endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, because that's shorter, is kind of like the highway of the cell. It transports proteins from the ribosomes to other parts of the cell. Maybe it's going outside the cell, maybe it's going somewhere else, and they would send it to the cell membrane. Or maybe it's just going to another part of the cell, maybe it's going to the mitochondria or the nucleus. The next organelle is the Golgi body. I like to think of the Golgi body as the FedEx of the cell. It packages and ships proteins. So it makes them all nice and compact, winds them up tight, and sends them where they need to go, just like FedEx sends packages all over. Yeah, right here they call it a post office. That would work too. A vacuole is kind of like the suitcase of the cell. It stores food and water that need to be kept in one place in the cell. So it's this little, well, in this diagram, it's half of a vacuole because obviously it would be closed to store the food and water, but it's just letting you see. Last but not least, we have the lysosome. The lysosome cleans up waste in the cell. It's like the recycling center or the garbage disposal. Cleans up the cell. And sometimes I like to think about lysosome like Lysol. You know, Lysol, the cleaning supplies. Cleans up the cell. It's right here, this circular structure. There's a couple of them in the cell. Okay, that is it for our organelle definitions. Make sure if you missed any of those definitions, you're going back in the video and getting down everything that's in green. You should have 9 total organelle definitions complete before you move on to practice.